Today on Straight Talk Africa, an update on the latest developments regarding the political crisis in Burundi. Peace talks between Bujumbura and opposition groups have been postponed with no word on when they may resume. But the UN Security Council is reportedly pushing for a new mediation effort in the Central African country. That's coming up next right here on Straight Talk Africa. Hello, welcome to Straight Talk Africa, live from the Voice of America studios here in Washington. It's Wednesday, January 20th. I am Shaka Ssali.
And hello to you, Shaka, and hello to all our viewers and listeners on the continent and elsewhere. I'm Mariama Diallo, your social media reporter.
Today, we'll talk about the latest developments regarding the Burundi peace talks.
And coming up later in our STA inbox, we'll share your thoughts on the topic. That's through your emails, tweets, and Facebook comments. That's ahead on Straight Talk Africa. Hope you'll stay with us.
Burundi's current political upheaval began in April 2015 after current President Pierre Nkurunziza decided to run for another term, defying the Arusha Peace Accord, which limits the president to a maximum of 2 terms. My colleague Esther Gidhui-Yuwat has more.
Angered by Nkurunziza's bid to run for a 3rd term, protests broke in the capital Bujumbura on April 26, 2015, quickly turning into violence across the country. The violence caught the attention of East African leaders who organized an extraordinary summit to discuss the crisis. On May 13th, while in Tanzania attending the summit, rebel soldiers staged a coup led by President Nkurunziza's former intelligence chief and a close ally, Godefroid Niyombare, whom he dismissed in February. Nkurunziza was unable to return home. But soon after, the president's army chief of staff, General Prime Niyongabo, announced that the attempted coup had been thwarted. The president returned home the following day, but violence escalated across the country, and hundreds of Burundians began to flee to neighboring countries. U.S. Ambassador to Burundi, Dawn Liberi, quickly held a press conference condemning the violence.
The United States condemns all acts of violence and calls on the government of Burundi to allow peaceful demonstrations as allowed by the Constitution.
In the first 2 weeks of December, as many as 90 people were killed in the clashes that continued between government forces and those perceived to be opposed to Nkurunziza's presidency. The killing caught the attention of other Africans. In Kenya, human rights activists organized a night vigil to condemn the killings. Human rights activist Boniface Mwangi said it was critical for African leaders to send peacekeepers to Burundi.
Our biggest fear is that it's not going to be a slow genocide, and by the time we wake up, it's too late. Right now, the killings are in their hundreds. It's going to go to their thousands.
At the United Nations headquarters in New York, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon held a meeting to discuss the deteriorating situation.
I am alarmed by the escalating violence in Burundi. What we have seen over the past few days is chilling. The country is on the brink of a civil war that risks engulfing the entire region.
During a press briefing, Deputy Spokesman for the U.S. Department of State, Mark Toner, called for peaceful dialogue.
All Burundians renounce violence and intimidation and support peaceful, productive engagement in dialogue as a key to reestablishing in Burundi an atmosphere of openness and trust.
The Burundi crisis has caught the attention of lawmakers in the U.S., prompting a Senate Foreign Relations hearing on the political and security crisis in the Central African country. U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, during the December 9th hearing.
The crisis in Burundi has worsened. A daily pattern of retaliatory attacks between security forces and armed elements of the opposition against any form of perceived opposition or critique, even from within their ruling party ranks.
Nkurunziza, a former Hutu rebel, a teacher and a sports coach, says he is a born-again Christian and believes his presidency is by divine will. Critics say there is nothing divine about the continued killings and violence that has rocked the country in the last 9 months. Esther Gidhui-Yuwat, VOA News, Washington.
Thanks, Esther, for that report. Joining us here in our Washington studios are 2 distinguished guests. Wire Nyamitwe, Senior Advisor to Burundian President Pierre Nkurunziza, and Karine Kaneza, a member of the Burundian diaspora. Well, I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, that I'm profoundly honored and exceedingly humbled to have the opportunity to host both of you on Straight Talk Africa for the first time.
Thanks for the invitation, and I greet all the persons who are following us, and I hope to get a good debate with my fellow from the country, from Burundi, that we come here and we meet in Washington just to talk, to pressure the Burundi dialogue, but now on air.
Thank you for inviting me, and a warm greetings to our viewers, especially those from the African continent. Truly an honor. Thank you.
You're most welcome, and of course, a hugely terrific Happy New Year to you both.
Thank you to you too.
Thank you too. Later in the program, we will give you, the audience, a chance to call and talk with our guests. The number to call is 202-619-3111. US country code is 1. Let me come to you immediately, Willie. Is there any day since President Nkurunziza was re-elected, is there any single day that people have not died in the streets of the capital Bujumbura? And if so, why?
Of course, yes. Of course, yes. But the problem is that people continue to air, to broadcast old images. The images that I have seen are the Burundi of yesterday, not the current Burundi. The situation that prevails in the country is not similar to the images that we have seen. Those images have been maybe shot it was in May or June 2015. But I can assure you that now Burundi is at peace. Yes, we are still facing some difficulties because Burundi has crossed hard times. We have some people who continue to kill innocent people and throw their bodies in the streets. But I can say that the death toll has decreased. Even, would it be even one person? It remains a matter of concern. But now we can say that those people who have been firing over the night, killing people, I think those people have been defeated, and most of them have been disarmed. We've seen the day before yesterday that 3 persons have been killed, but we believe it was ahead of this delegation from the Security Council that is traveling to Burundi. Those persons, they always try to tarnish the image of Burundi to show that the Burundi is under fire. So they kill people in order to show the international community that in Burundi we are not at peace. But I can assure you that since December until now, Burundi is at peace.
Who died? Who are those 3 that were reportedly killed the day before yesterday? Because the information I have is that before we came to the studio, there are in fact 3 government officials who were killed near Bujumbura.
Yeah, it was in Bujumbura. It was in a bar, but those kind of attacks are similar to terrorist attack because when you go to kill innocent people, those are innocent people. They could be from the government, but they are innocent people. When people are going to their lives, no one has to go and kill them. This has to be addressed seriously. But even here in America, even in other countries of Africa, of Europe, we can see people who behave like this, who go and kill people blindly, but this is terrorism.
It is true to a certain degree that, for example, you could go to some of the major American cities and you find that the police has killed some people and what have you. But when you look at the trajectory of Burundi, really, especially I am really surprised that these killings seem to be confined, or people who attack government authorities tend to come from specific areas like Ngagara, Nyakabiga, Musaga, Chibitoke, Mutakura, and Jabe. Why?
These are neighborhoods that were in the streets during the violent riots of May and June 2015. And in those neighborhoods, we used to see people firing over the night and killing people, throwing bodies in the street, taking pictures, spreading them on internet, WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, in order to show that Burundi government is killing its citizens. But security forces have addressed seriously with this matter, trying to disarm those chaps. And for the time being, I can assure you that most of all the weapons that they had have been seized by the police. This is the reason why now we can see Burundi emerging from those ashes, and the internal dynamics beginning to shine again when people are going to their lives at peace. But we cannot cross our hands and say that situation came back to normal 100%. We are still coping with those persons who continue to kill innocent people. But now the death toll, thank God, has sensibly decreased.
I see. Karine, of course, you are a patriotic Burundian citizen. You obviously have been following the developments in your country. How do you respond to what Gwire Nyamitwe has just said?
Thank you. Well, what I would like to say is that the facts on the ground contradict utterly what Mr. Nyamitwe just said. And I would like us to enlarge the conversation and include, because we're talking about Bujumbura, but let's not forget that we have 235,000 people who have fled Burundi, who are in the sub-region. As you know, for an African man or an African woman to leave his or her land, it must be serious. Land is a crucial issue in our country. Let's not forget the latest UN report that says that there have been at least 9 mass graves which have been uncovered. When we talk about different neighborhoods being disarmed and a decrease of death toll, how then do you explain the increased number of rapes of women, for instance? The report mentions gang rapes, and one has to state with an undertone of ethnicity. What's going on in Burundi
what do you
is
mean
not
when you say with an undertone of ethnicity? Because my understanding of the politics of your country is that, in fact, you have both primary stakeholders, especially Tutsi and Hutu, on both sides of the aisle.
Absolutely.
Is that correct?
Yes. But that does not take away the fact that right now, as we speak, women who have been victims of rape have stated themselves. And who are we to say that it's not true what they said? That every time they were taken by force, they were told, insulted, that they were taken because, one, they were Tutsis, or because they, men, brothers, or whoever, were fighting the government. And rape being used as a weapon, as a terror tactic, is absolutely unacceptable. And as we know, it has been recognized as a crime against under international law. Now, that's one issue. But I would like to also state something. We say that the Burundi crisis is a political crisis, but at the heart of it, it's a crisis of ethics. And that's, I think, very important to note. When you look at where we came from and where we are right now, 3 things have to be stated. The first one, the inability of the political elite to actually articulate a vision of a new society where the minority, those who don't want the president to go for a third term, those who are part and parcel of the government feel that they belong to the same country. The second issue, it's what I call the politics of sanduku, the briefcase, where the state becomes a briefcase full of goodies, where everybody from the political elite is trying to actually grab those goodies, and they forget their people in the process. And then we have the third issue, which is very important, which is linked to those 2 points. It's a breakdown of morals and values. Well, and what happens, I'm sorry, I'm just going to finish. What happens is that we have a cavalier attitude from our political elite towards people who are dying, towards those who are, for instance, and I'm sure you've heard, that people are not even allowed to bury their loved ones. This is, can you imagine?
We'll come back to that and more later, because time happens not to really be our best ally. There's no democracy in 52. When the producer tells you to go for a break, you have to go, like a very loyal soldier. Now, we'll pause for a short break, and would like to remind you that Straight Talk Africa is now on the social networking website Twitter, and we are tweeting live. Follow us at VOA Shaka, that's VOA Shaka, and join in on today's discussion with your questions and comments. Don't forget to use the hashtag, and we are still on Facebook. Just enter the keyword Straight Talk Africa, become a fan and connect with other friends of the Voice of America. We'll be right back with you, so please don't go away.
Jean Minani, the exiled leader of the opposition Front for Democracy in Burundi, says efforts toward a peaceful resolution of the Burundian crisis are not dead because the Burundian people want peace. He says if President Nkurunziza's government doesn't want to negotiate, they will be forced into negotiations by the will of the people. Violence in Burundi is sparked by row over president's third term. Burundi's ethnically fueled civil war ended in 2005. World frets about new ethnic conflict in the volatile region, and government denies trying to exploit ethnic rifts.
Like Voice of America on Facebook. Follow VOA on Twitter. Join VOA on our YouTube channel. Like, follow, join VOA.
This is Straight Talk Africa on the Voice of America. What is your opinion about today's topic? Call us at 202-619-3111. U.S. country code 1. When you call, remember the following. Ask only one question, keep your comment brief, and turn down the volume on your radio or television. Now let's return to Straight Talk Africa.
Thank you very much. I thank you, Ward. And of course, this is Straight Talk Africa, coming to you live from Washington. I have to apologize to you, Karine, because I really had to interject. Like I said, there's no democracy in Studio 52. When the producer says you go, you have to go. So I hope you'll find some space in your beautiful Burundian hat. Forgive me for that.
That's okay.
Could you complete your point? You have 30 seconds.
The breakdown of morals, which for me is at the center of this crisis, where we have a cavalier attitude, we become death worshippers. People die today, December 11th. The following day, people are celebrating. We become celebrators of death. And what I would like to add to that is that we have become what we didn't want to be maybe 15 years ago. And that is linked to the whole issue of seeing the state as the alpha and omega. This 15,000 square meters where everything is there and you don't even think of your people. It is impossible. It is utterly unacceptable.
But of course, as you know, that is not limited to Burundi. You can find the same syndrome across the continent, correct?
Does it make it right?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Let's come to Willie. You've listened to your sister. How do you respond to her allegations?
You know, Burundi has been coping with this slander campaign. Some Burundians are trying to tarnish the image of the country, saying that in Burundi nothing goes well. Fortunately, some of their campaigns have been destroyed. Before, they were saying that the government of Burundi is arming a youth wing in Imbonerakure, that they have been trained in the DRC Congo in order to come back in Burundi and kill some citizens.
And comparing them with the Rwanda in
Interahamwe. But at the end of the day, they found that this narrative was false, completely false. The people who have been shooting, killing people, they are from the opposition. Those who are being arrested, disarmed, are people from the opposition. So finally, this narrative collapsed. So they are all the time trying to bring in another narrative. Remember, they said in the police, we have Interahamwe, we have FDLR from Rwanda. The first person who has been caught, they found that he was a French citizen, a Burundian, but who is French. But they were about to kill him. Fortunately, he has been saved. But the second one, we found that he was someone from Uganda working for a telecom company. So finally, they said, this cannot work. So in Burundi, there's no FDLR, no Interahamwe. They continued to find out some other ways to tarnish Burundi. This is the reason why now they are bringing in this rape story. She's my sister. I respect her as my sister. I've got women in my life. I've got a mother, I've got a wife, I've got daughters, I've got sisters. So in Burundi, we respect a woman. We cannot say that there's no rape in Burundi. We cannot say there is no rape in America, in France, in Africa, and other countries. This can happen. But to link it with the current crisis, I think it's only lies. The only person that I have seen myself being raped, she was a woman, a lady from the ruling party. She has been abused and savagely killed. She didn't make a statement. No one from international media has covered it. It's like that woman had to be killed, and it's normal. And finally, 2 or 3 months later, we saw some comments on Radio France International, a woman claiming that she has been abused by the police. Security forces have dismissed this report. And finally, we got also other reports saying there are a lot of women that are being raped by youth wing Imbonerakure and some policemen that behave like a gang. I can assure you that this is not happening in my country. Yes, I believe rape can be used as a weapon, but in Burundi, it's not the case. Rape can be also used by women as a weapon. I've seen here in America, when you are campaigning, people come out and say, I've been raped, I've been abused 30 years ago. This can be true or wrong, but I'm telling you that rape in all the sides can be used as a weapon. So for now, they are using it as a weapon to continue the campaign of slander against Burundi. The government of Burundi takes these allegations seriously and all the time investigates to check whether it's true or wrong.
Is it possible that perhaps you probably don't know the fundamental root causes of why Burundi is where it is today, meaning that you may in fact be dealing with symptoms of a problem, frankly, that you have hardly identified. Because if you had identified the fundamental root causes of your problems, frankly, you should be reasonably in control of the affairs of your country, specifically the capital.
Absolutely.
We know the fundamental, we know the root of our problems.
What is it?
Wow. You know, those persons who are behind this campaign of distortion, of lies, of slander, those persons have tried even to overthrow elected institutions. They started by spreading false information, false stories, and finally they went into the streets trying to barricade roads, to burn tires, vehicles, even individuals.
But some of these guys, Willie, are your former comrades, your former colleagues. People like Rajab, for example.
Yeah, Rajab is... let me finish my point about the source, the origin of the conflict. You know, if you look at everything that is happening in Burundi, when you come in Burundi, you see that the real situation on the ground is much different from the situation that is spread on the internet.
You're talking about the countryside.
Yeah, I'm talking not only the countryside, even in Bujumbura, because you talked when we started this show. You talked about Musaga,
specific areas, really, in the suburbs
yes,
of the
about
country.
Nyakabiga. They are neighborhoods like hills.
Right.
In Burundi, we have more than 3,000 hills.
We don't hear about Kamenge anymore.
Yeah, but
in
we
the
have
90s, we heard about Kamenge.
We have more than 3,000 hills. When these things are happening in 4 or 5 hills out of 3,000, it means, yes, it's a problem, but we have to address those issues according to our laws, our constitution, because it came from people who didn't want to follow the path of democracy. Because in democracy, you have to respect the decision of the people. Those persons cannot say they represent the entire country. It's impossible. This is the reason why when they fail on this battle, they find another way to continue to harm and distort information.
I see.
And this slander campaign really exists.
I see.
So this is the reason why she brought in another campaign of ethnicity, saying people who are being killed are people from one ethnic group. But how this can come in a country where we have in the army 50% Hutus and 50% Tutsis, in the police the same thing, in the government we have Hutus and Tutsis, and in all the sectors of the life of the country, the Hutus and Tutsis are there. Only them can see this ethnicity.
Karine, I don't know, of course, what you would say about that. Maybe you would in fact say it is perhaps sharing power between those individuals who are involved. Are you persuaded, convinced by his argument?
Oh, absolutely not.
And why not?
Let me just go through a couple of things he said. Well, first of all, I find it a bit offensive as a Burundian that we would compare the situation in Burundi to other countries. Because I believe that Burundi, the Burundian crisis, is very distinct, has its own characteristics, embedded within a Burundian problem. So, and the countries he mentioned, France and US, and they're not having people who are wandering in the streets and the forest of their neighboring countries. So it's on behalf of those who are not here, who are bedridden and who are, scattered throughout the region. I find it a bit offensive. But let me just say something. I think Mr. Nyamitwe said something very interesting. He said, well, we know our problems, but we still have problems. I want to link it to the efforts of regional organs like the EAC and the African Union, who have been calling for some solutions. Now,
East African Community.
For instance,
Led
the
by
protection.
President Yoweri Museveni.
The African Union, Peace and Security Commission has actually passed a resolution on the deployment of a prevention and protection force in Burundi.
In fact, threatening to deploy 5,000 troops in Burundi.
And I think there's been other calls for an international commission of inquiry. So if indeed we have citizens killing other citizens, why not welcoming really the help of our neighbors of the continent, of an organ which was established especially in particular to address those types of issues. That's the first point. The other point I would like to say is that on the rape issue, let's not forget that rape is not confounded in Burundi. We have figures. 48% of the women who actually fled Burundi, who are in Tanzania, have required medical care. And they've stated...
You have empirical evidence on that?
Absolutely.
No. I think she's lying.
It's very simple.
I think
one just has to go and check the UNHCR report, in a Refugee International report. Yeah. But of course, again, the question is going to be, well, they're also lying because there's this whole sort of conspiracy against the government. But another thing I would like to bring in is this: the majority and the minority, people who have never wanted democracy. Now,
the minority are Hutus and Tutsis.
Right.
Yeah. In the minority, we have Hutus and Tutsis.
Okay.
Yeah,
when you talk about those two groups, where do you leave the Bagano, for example, and the Batwa, the Pygmies?
Yeah, they're supposed to be Burundians.
Yeah, they are there.
They are Burundians.
Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, again, time is not our best ally. We'll come back to that and more later, and perhaps we should be looking at possible solutions. You are tuned into Straight Talk Africa. We'll have more of a discussion in a moment. But first, here is Mariama Jaro. Take it away, Mariama.
Well, thanks, Shaka. Still to come, we'll reveal some of the outstanding feedback we've received from our audience through social media. But now, here is our letter of the week from a Straight Talk Africa Facebook fan. Turam Yomye Fred in Kanungu, Uganda writes, the Burundian government and the opposition should show a real commitment to end violence by restraining opposite parties from attacking one another. We should not forget what sparked this violence that has accelerated into a civil war. There is a need to respect the country's constitution, which provided for only 2 presidential terms. Burundi would be moving forward if President Nkurunziza had not wrongly copied from fellow Africa's dictators by attempting to change the constitution.
Today's youth are not just the next generation of African leaders, they are today's leaders. And this is the time to invest in them. Today, not tomorrow. So let's connect. Let's engage with each other on issues that will transform our societies. Innovation, leadership, entrepreneurship, things that you're doing to move the continent forward, to make you the greatest generation that Africa has known. It's Upfront every Wednesday, 17:30 UTC, right here on The Voice of America.
This is Straight Talk Africa on The Voice of America. Call us now with your questions and comments. The number is 202-619-3111 and the U.S. country code is 1. Call us direct and we'll call you right back. Remember to turn down the volume on your radio or television and keep your comments brief. Now back to Straight Talk Africa.
Thank you very much, Esther Gideon-Ewart, and welcome back to Straight Talk Africa, live from Washington. Once again, it's time to bring in my colleague and social media reporter, Mariama. Take it away again, Mariama.
Thanks, Shaka. It seems that peace talks between Burundi's government and opposition groups have been postponed with no word on when they may resume. A UN Security Council delegation is headed to Burundi with a message for the government and opposition to start serious dialogue and avert a catastrophe before it's too late. Well, this leads us to our question of the week, which asks, what step do you think need to be taken before the Burundian government and the opposition groups reach a peaceful agreement? Before we begin, let's thank all everybody who's using all our social media platform to communicate to us. And just a reminder that we are tweeting live today. Just use the hashtag VOA Burundi Peace. And if you haven't yet, do follow us on Twitter. We're going to actually, since we're talking about Twitter, we're going to turn to our tweets and look at what they have to say on this topic. And we'll go to one from Burundi, who has these recommendations for the government and everyone in Burundi, saying that stop killing by deploying peacekeepers, 2, arms embargo, and 3, sanctions against those hindering talks. We're going to look at another tweet, this time from Dion Zion, also who has a 3-step recommendation list, saying that Nkurunziza is the best president and Burundians' choice. 2nd, opposition betrayed the country. And 3rd, Burundians, we need to respect the Burundians' voice. We'll now turn to our Facebook followers and go to a posting from Mohamed Ahmed Mansour from Monrovia in Liberia, who writes, the people of Burundi should stop the violence and come together to reconcile their differences. More importantly, Burundians should cultivate a sense of compassion, resolve, and move forward to a peaceful dialogue. Well, Shaka and guests, we had some very strong arguments here. Your take.
Very interesting. Karine, you want to react to that?
I think I totally agree with the fact that it's the first step that is absolutely urgent is to bring in a protection force.
Why?
Because civilians are being killed, because civilians die. Because right now, the death toll, and that is, I think, the saddest thing for me, in mid-May, when the heads of state of the East African community were meeting, the death toll was less than 20 people. And we had 40,000 refugees. Today, we have 250,000 refugees, and a death toll amounting, according to local associations' reports, as of October, 1,000, more than 1,000 people died. And it speaks to the political behavior, the political intention that our political elite currently puts forward. And I think that's a very important issue we need to look at. And talking about the political behavior, the political intention, you're right. You said maybe this is a manifestation of a problem that's maybe bigger. Absolutely. You know that I'm a member of a women's movement. Mm-hmm. We call it a deficit of leadership, a very deep crisis in terms of our ethics, in terms of our morals, in terms of who we are as people. Burundi has been really, the word that one would use, destroyed and raped violently.
But how come some of these issues, frankly, did not surface until after President Nkurunziza was re-elected for what you call a 3rd term?
That's not true. I think the political behavior, the problem we're seeing, started even before the 3rd term. The 3rd term was the climax of something that happened before. Let's bring back years of 2011, 2013, 2009, where you had, for instance, horrendous murders, which obviously cannot be really attributed to the so-called terrorists. For instance, the murder that has not even been investigated or elucidated so far of 3 Italian sisters, dear sister Olga, Bernadette, and Lucia, who were killed in a very horrendous manner, similar to some of the murders we see today. That's very important to link.
It seems to me that we might really need another show. But for now, let's go to Facebook first, and then I'll come back to you, Willie. Mariama, do you have any more feedback from audience, please?
I know the discussion is heated, but another discussion is also taking place on our social media platforms on Facebook and Twitter. Let's go now actually to a posting from one of our Facebook followers, and this time it's Omunuo Okugbo Igodalo from Abuja in Nigeria, who writes that individuals who are part of the government, opposition groups, and civil society must give their best to attain peace. The watchwords for every Burundian should be service to humanity at all times, no matter the position of our views or station in life. Let's take a look at another Facebook comment, this time from Sebunia Joshua Bryan from Kampala in Uganda, who writes, African leaders think the country is like their family and they forget to use the time for the betterment of their society. Well, Shaka and Guest, once again, your take on this comment.
Willie, it's all yours.
I like the comments, people sharing their views. It's all about politics. She's here as a member of civil society organization, but she's in politics, I know. I'm from the government.
Democratic right?
Yeah, it's her right, but we have to assume what we are really. But let me remind her that this issue of peacekeeping force started with a letter from Mr. Leon Singenda Komani. It was in February 2014. He sent a letter to UN General Secretary saying, in Burundi, we need a peacekeeping force.
And who is that gentleman?
He's a leader of an opposition party, and it was 2 years ago that he asked for the UN to send in Burundi a peacekeeping force. So those chaps, they didn't want to go to the polls because if I may recall, in 2011, November, another politician in Burundi from the opposition, when he granted an interview to a local newspaper, they asked if he was preparing the elections, the 2015 elections. He said, elections won't happen because we are engaged in a process of a kind of revolution that will last for 3 years. So people from the opposition, in spite of going to prepare their members for the forthcoming elections, they were only preparing a kind of war, instability in the country. This is the reason why I'm trying to say humbly that those chaps are all the time failing. They bring in this strategy, it fails. They bring another one, it fails. So now they are rejecting the decision of the population. We have to understand that when it comes to democracy, the population has the last word. If the population wants to go to election, they have to go to vote. People from the opposition, they have called their members not to go to vote. They said no elections must be held in the country. Even a day before elections, every time they were shooting over the night, making too much noise, just to terrorize the population not to go to vote. But the population went to vote. So it means the population wanted these elections, wanted to decide. So those people, they have to respect the decision from the population and prepare for 2020 elections. Another thing that I have to correct from what she is trying to say. How send 5,000 troops in a peaceful land? I don't think that she's now following the politics around Burundi or in Africa. Even the chairperson of
if someone
African
were
Union,
following the media really and looking at these reports, even though you contest some of the reports that they may in fact not be accurate. If somebody was monitoring what's going on in Bujumbura, for example, on a daily basis, and also looking at those hundreds of thousands of Burundians, frankly, who are refugees outside of their country.
Yeah, sure.
Wouldn't that person perhaps be persuaded that they might in fact be in need?
We don't say that people are not outside, the people didn't flee the country. This is a matter of concern. But why did those persons run away? They didn't go during this unrest. They went outside the country long before, because some rumors have been spread that people are going to be killed. Tutsis in Kirundo, some graves are being digged in order to go and bury some Tutsis. So this was pushed some people to go out to flee their country because of rumors. But
unfortunately, with the time again is not our best ally. I have to go to the teleprompter. Thanks, Mariama, for bringing us this week's audience reaction.
Well, thank you, Shaka, and thank you to the guests. I think you have another 15 minutes to make your point, certainly. But this will do it for today's social media segment. Just a reminder that we appreciate all the feedback, whether it's in social media form or using other means to communicate to us. Please keep them coming. And if you are a new fan, just drop us a line at africatv@voanews.com. Once again, our email address is africatv@voanews.com. Or post your comment on our Facebook page. Just enter the keywords Straight Talk Africa. Be sure to visit us online at voaafrica.com, or you can join our YouTube channel. Sign up to VOA TV to Africa, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter at VOA Shaka. A reminder that the show is streaming live every Wednesday. Go to the VOA Straight Talk Africa TV program page on our website, or simply watch us live on your mobile device. Just download the VOA mobile app. Well, now let's take a look at what's on tap for next week's program. Next week on Straight Talk Africa, we'll discuss the upcoming presidential and parliamentary elections in the Central African Republic. Join Shaka, Guest, and I as we analyze the ballot. That's next week, right here on Straight Talk Africa.
We are able to touch on things that are important to people on an everyday basis. We hope that our viewers are getting inspired when they watch our show. They're getting a view of the world from a different perspective, things that perhaps are not in their immediate vicinity. Today, I could put in on the show something that is a little different, a little unique, and this gives me that, inspiration to come to work.
If you like today's show, please write and tell us what you think or give us some suggestions. Be sure to tell us what station you're tuned into. Our address, Straight Talk Africa, Voice of America, 330 Independence Avenue Southwest, Washington, D.C. 20237 USA. Or send us an email at africatv@voanews.com. Log on to our website at voaafrica.com. Or post your comments on Facebook. Keywords Straight Talk Africa.
Thank you very much, Esther Githu-Yuwat. And of course, this is Straight Talk Africa, coming to you live from Washington. Now, Karine, please, let's figure out a way forward. You know as well as I do that we've been talking about, for example, the third term. And yet, you are a lawyer. Yes. The fact of the matter is, Nkurunziza did not change the Constitution. He may have tweaked it, but with the endorsement from the Constitutional Court. You're talking about 6 judges, okay? We had more or less a similar situation here in 2000. You had Florida 2000, when Bush won the presidency. You remember?
Yes,
the Supreme Court, 5-4. Now, the thing is, how do we get out of here, really? Because we have to look for solutions.
Okay. Very quickly. The the Constitutional Court, when the vice president of the court fled, in which country will you say that ruling is actually credible? I don't know.
That is one out of, I mean, there were 7, correct?
Absolutely.
There were 6.
But if one of them is stating that he has been threatened in order to join the rest of the group, then what would you assume as a concerned citizen?
Yeah, but democracy.
The thing is,
let's talk about democracy.
How do we get out
when we talk about democracy, we're talking about going to the polls. I heard Mr. Nyamitwe keeps talking about the polls.
But in an environment, obviously, that
exactly when the media has been the independent media has been destroyed. When you have a section of your population outside of your country, when you have people who are being harassed, extrajudicial killings, torture, and I would like to bring in something that we've talked about, but we've not really paused and think about. We have 9 mass graves in Burundi as we speak right now. State-inspired killings and terror has a stench. It is very distinct. This is not an environment where you can really say, well, you know, without forgetting that we have a high level of illiteracy, you can't really say, well, people have voted and here you go, and this is our president. So, but let's not go back to the third term. I would to the third term issue because I think there are other articles within the Constitution which could be even advanced. And I'm saying this as a lawyer. You have the Article 299, which talks about a revision or any amendment to the law that would actually threaten reconciliation, social cohesion, should not be made. We have many articles within the Constitution, 106 being one of them, whereby it says that the president actually has the responsibility to promote and maintain social cohesion. You remember that when the third term was mentioned, in the streets of Bujumbura, it was a third term that's dividing the people. So you have the legal aspect, which can be contested, but at the same time, we have the ethical and moral responsibility that actually, in our African culture, is sometimes really important to look at. Now, let's think of solutions, as you said. The solution is very clear. Protect the civilians that are being killed, prepare an enabling environment, and by the way, the 5,000 troops who seem to be very uncomfortable to admit from Mr. Nyamitwe, it's been done before. Remember Mr. Willie, in 2001, there was the South African Special Protection Detachment that actually was there. So it should be easier now. It should be easier 15 years down the line.
But he asked the way forward.
Yes, exactly.
I think the way forward.
First step. Second step, let's have the peace negotiations. Let's have a date. Let's have people.
Why don't we go first to the lifeline of the show, which are the telephone callers, so that we can also hear from some individuals on the continent asking you some questions,
Absolutely.
Please. Good evening, Samuel from Uganda. You're most welcome to Straight Talk Africa.
Good evening, Shaka. How are you?
Usually terrific. How are you today?
I'm very terrific and okay. I will go straight to Willie Nyamitwe.
Yes, please.
Is there a chance, please, is there a chance once again of allowing in the African Union peacekeeping force? What if the audience suggests that, wait a minute, how about giving peace a chance by engaging the opposition to peace talks with the government delegation? Thank you very much, Shaka, and thank you, the panelists.
Thank you. How about that, Willie?
Yeah, thank you. The government of Burundi cannot close the door for dialogue. And now we are engaged in a process of inter-Burundian dialogue that must be inclusive, and no one has to be excluded. So Burundian inside the country and Burundian outside the country, the diaspora. So Burundi has already started this, and we have a commission of 15 members that has to deal with this inter-Burundian dialogue, and we are also supporting the mediation facilitation from the East African community.
But how did you choose them? Because there are some of your critics, in fact, who are saying Those people you are talking about are friends of your government.
No. It can't be. We have 15%, and among them we have a priest, we have someone from Methodist Church, we have a Muslim, we have someone from the police, from the army, we have a Twa, we have Hutu, Tutsi, and we also have people from political parties. But quickly, this comes as a way forward. But we really need this into the Burundian dialogue to be inclusive. We don't want to discuss with people who maybe don't want Burundi to go back to peace. People who are only destabilizing the peace in the country, and also for these troops that you are claiming you want to send to Burundi. I'm telling you how to send 5,000 troops in Burundi. They should be sent in Rwanda, where people are being trained, refugees are being trained, refugees are being recruited and armed.
Let me go to another telephone caller, please. Good evening, Patrick. You're most welcome to Straight Talk Africa. Patrick from Nigeria.
Good evening, Mr. Shaka. Good evening, our guest.
Hugely terrific.
My question to our guest, Willie.
Yes.
After every peace talk in Africa, both parties go haywire. Immediately, they go back in their territory. Now, they end up producing child soldiers. How do we solve this issue of child soldiers? Because there are so many in all these prone areas of crisis. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you. We continue to ensure the international community and Burundians that Burundi would not fall into a civilian war. In Burundi, we are going to continue to fight in order to maintain our peace and stability. The situation that prevails in South Sudan, we are not going to experience it in Burundi. And we have a request from African Union to send Burundi troops in South Sudan to go there and help.
You have troops in Somalia?
We have troops in Somalia, in Central African Republic, and we also have other troops to provide in other countries that are still trying to find out a solution to their problems.
Let me ask you a regional question. To what extent would you say that your regional colleagues have confidence in your ability to run your country and to be really a sort of partner that they respect? Because it is supposed to be your turn, for example, to take up the chairmanship of the East African community. It is also your turn to get one of yours becoming the Secretary General of the East African community. Are you in a position to do that?
Yeah, sure.
Really?
Yeah, we're in a position to do that. Why not?
Because we can't even protect our own people.
We have a show.
30 seconds, please, Kalin. 30 seconds.
Okay. No, we can't. If we can't protect our citizens, how can we really deal with regional issues? Now, going back to the issue of Rwanda and sending troops to Rwanda, I think that it really speaks to what I call the scapegoating mentality. Our house is on fire. Let's look at what's happening and let's try to find solutions. Now,
there is some evidence, though. There is some evidence that there is some kind of interference coming from Rwanda. There is empirical evidence, in fact, on that.
Interferences, meaning they are recruiting people who have fled Burundi.
Unfortunately,
I think
there's no democracy here. I have to go. Unfortunately, time is not our best ally. On that note, thanks to our distinguished guests, William Nyamitwe, Senior Advisor to Burundian President Pierre Nkurunziza, and Karine Kaneza, a member of the Burundian diaspora. Thanks to our affiliate stations, along with our viewers and listeners, we thank you for tuning in. For many of our Voice of America radio affiliates, Learning English is coming up next. And tomorrow morning, it's Daybreak Africa with James Bate. On behalf of the Voice of America, thanks for tuning in to Straight Talk Africa. In the meantime, get better, not bitter Burundi. And please remember to keep the African hopes alive.